Welcome to how to use the cosine rule, part 1. And in this we will be looking at how to use the formula a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos, for cosine, a. Now, what I would like to emphasise is that this equation and this formula does not look very pleasant. But it's actually a gift in an exam, because what you're doing is substituting in numbers and typing it into your calculator. Okay? It's not the prettiest formula, it's quite easy to make a little mistake, but if you take your time and do it step by step, it's practically giving you the marks in the exam. The tricky bit, and the thing you need to be careful about doing, is labelling your triangle. This is the absolute most important part of the cosine rule. How do you recognise you're using the cosine rule? We'll go into this later, but either you have two sides and what we call the included angle, so two sides and the one in the middle, and the angle in the middle, or the way I recognise it is I'm looking at if I have all the sides. Because the cosine rule is quite like Pythagoras. If I get rid of this minus 2bc cos a, you'll see I have a squared plus b squared, a squared equals b squared plus c squared, which is suspiciously similar to our Pythagoreans. So, what do you label first? Well, you'll notice with the cosine rule, when we look at the formula, there is only one angle, and that's in cos A. So whatever that angle is, you're going to have to call that A. The opposite side will be called the same thing, little a. And then we have a look, and what we'll see is that actually in our formula, anything you do to B, you also do to C, and it doesn't matter if you multiply them the other way around. So B and C can be either which way, so it doesn't really matter. Now, I quite like to make a wee list. Not everyone does this, but at the side, I like to do each of my sides with my angles, so I know what my measurements are and I'm not having to keep going back to the diagram. So I have A is what I'm looking for, that's going to be X. B is 18, C is 30, angle A is 110, and we don't have C and B, and we don't have C. Okay? Once you've written it out, it is a case of copying your formula. So let's do this in black. Copying your formula, so we have a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. And as I said, I know that's a long formula. But the next step is we just put our numbers in. So b squared, we've got 18 squared, c plus 30 squared, take away 2 times 18 times 30 times cos 110. It's very easy to run out of space there. Type it into a calculator, you have choices. In order to reduce your chance of error, unless you've got a Casio where it's really easy to see the entire equation, I've always been a fan of doing it in two halves. So I get 18 squared plus 30 squared, take away 2 times 18 times 30 times cos 110. So that's going to be take away minus 369.3817548 ... Okay? Keep that on your calculator, because remember what we can do is 1224 take away answer. Answer is bigger because we're subtracting a negative, so it ends up adding, and we're going to have 1593.381,755. Again, don't round yet. And because remember with Pythagoras, at the very end you have to square root. The same thing is true here. We have a squared, and we want a. So we are going to square root our answer. And I'm aware this is quite a bit of working. And voila, we're going to have 39.91718,621, which we're allowed to now round. And we're going to round that to 39.9. What was our units? Centimetres. So our side length that we're missing, which we probably should have changed to x at that point there. Okay? But it's best to just keep it in sign. So this value here, x, is 39.9. And you've got to make sure that at some point you are stating x equals. If you leave it as a equals, there'll sometimes be a funny mark that you'll lose. So, having a look at what we've done, we've copied the formula which you are given. Labelled our sides and angles, making sure that the angle we are given is angle A, because that's the only one we'll have in the formula. Substitute in our information, play around on the calculator, round with units for our final answer. It'll take a wee bit of practice, but take it step by step. Don't worry if it looks like you're going wrong, keep going. And you should be pretty good by the end of it. The only thing I want to warn you about, at this point here, you cannot have a negative answer, okay? Because we're talking about distance. Distance has to be positive. So if we end up with a negative answer that we're square rooting, our calculator will break. So if I'd had the square root of negative 1593, my calculator says it's broken. That's probably the most common place for people to get stuck, is they've ended up with a negative answer here. Okay? So good luck and give it a go.